What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Arkansas's turning the page to Alabama. We're going to take one last look at this Missouri game, though. We'll talk a little bit about Razorback basketball as well. It's just going to be me and you answering your questions, all that and more on Hog Sports Live. Before we get started, I want to remind you there's plenty of ways to watch and listen. You can always tune in on Facebook Live. Be sure to follow the page if you haven't done so already and share it with somebody you think might like it. Also available on YouTube. Give us a like on that page and share the video with others if you think they might like it. And hit the notifications bell after you subscribe so you're notified anytime we upload new videos. Also on Apple Podcasts, throw us that 5-star rating and leave a review so others can know what to expect of the show. Also available anywhere else you find podcasts. All right. The Missouri game is in the books. A disappointing finish, obviously. The fourth quarter, Arkansas gave up 292 yards. This is the one and 27 points. This is the game that stings the most, I think. You know, when we talked about early in the season, if everything fell right, if everything, you couldn't believe how perfectly everything went. A team had a starting quarterback out. Just Arkansas got a ton of turnovers, something like that. Just everything was lucky in Arkansas's favor. Then they were going to win 4 games. And the games that they had a chance to win were this one, Missouri, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. And they beat 3 of those teams. And they could have won this one. It's just the way the fourth quarter, and ask Sam Pittman, you know, after going back and watching the video, what happened. And basically, he says they got out physical. There's no, excuse of, this happened or that happened. They got out physical. Now, there were some game-changing moments, obviously. The personal foul penalty on Joe Fouché. You can't cross your arms at your own sideline for 1.5 seconds. Now, this is something, people have said, it's a selfish, it's not. That happens 25, 30 times a game. After a half-decent play, somebody does something. You can't, can you wave your arms back and forth? You can like it or not like it, but if you're going to call something like that, not standing over anybody, not taunting anybody, but if you're going to call something like that, then you have to call it 25 other times in the game. So when that happened, then later Grant Morgan went down with the knee injury, and we'll see. He's not going to practice today. We don't know on Felipe Franks if he's going to be available for Alabama either. But when that happened, everything just kind of changed for Arkansas on defense. They ended up giving up a field goal and then 24 more points after that in the fourth quarter. So that was a big moment for Arkansas. But the bottom line is one player can't make that big of a difference for you. You know, if that's the case, then Arkansas is in a lot of trouble. I've had a lot of Missouri fans come after me, because I have said that, Arkansas is a better program, and they are historically. They're a better program. They haven't been recently, obviously. That's obvious. I say that Arkansas is a better program, and I list the reasons why, and people come back at me like, well, if Arkansas is such a better program, how come Missouri's won 5 of the last 5, And that's the point I'm trying to make. That's what's the frustrating part because I'm just stating facts here. I'm not trying to slam Missouri, and they've won 5 in a row, and all credit due. Congratulations. To me, that shouldn't be happening. You shouldn't be losing 5 games in a row to Missouri. Again, when you look at recruiting, Arkansas out-recruits Missouri annually. There's not a player on Missouri's roster outside the state of Missouri that picked Missouri over Arkansas that I'm aware of. I don't think there's any. The kids from Arkansas that are on Missouri's roster, Arkansas didn't offer. When you look at finances, money, Arkansas has more. Arkansas spends more on recruiting. Facilities, Arkansas is better. Missouri just did a $98 million upgrade on their stadium, and they should. I mean, it needed an upgrade. Arkansas Stadium was nicer than Missouri's was before, and Arkansas did a $160 million upgrade. I can keep going down the line. Facilities, better fan support, better history, all of that stuff. That's why it's frustrating that Arkansas has lost 5 in a row to Missouri. I don't mean to say Missouri's bad, and I'm not saying that, but Arkansas should not be losing 5 in a row to Missouri. That's what I'm saying. Okay, I'm not trying to slam Missouri. They've obviously won 5 in a row. Somebody said, "Let that slap you in the face." I literally said that in my walk and talk. I don't know why that would slap me in the face. Anyway, all credit Missouri, yes. But Arkansas is also closer to Texas, and that's one of the, they don't have an advantage like that against many teams, but they're closer to Dallas. I mean, there's a lot of things that point to Arkansas being better or at least equal. Let's just say equal. Let's just say an equal program. They shouldn't be losing 5 in a row. But as we know, this is the worst historical stretch in University of Arkansas history that we've been witnessing. These past 8 years have been – it's never been as bad. And Missouri's been strong as a program the last 20, especially since Pinkel got there. But before that, you go 20 years before Pinkel, they've got one 8-win season. I mean, it's not like it's not that impressive. I mean, so Missouri fan, I'm not coming at you. This show's for Razorback fans, first of all, but I'm not trying to downgrade you. All I'm talking about is to Razorback fans why this shouldn't be happening. And I think things are moving in the right direction there, but that was a disappointing one because they absolutely could have won the game. And the way the fourth quarter, I mean, you're up 2 scores in the fourth quarter and you let it just slip away, and mainly because the defense was just atrocious. Let's look real quick. They scored on each of their last 5 possessions. One of them was a carryover from the third quarter, including the 32-yard field goal as time expired. Connor Bazelak was 8 of 11 for 150 yards, and they had 142 rushing yards on 10 carries. 27 fourth quarter points. That means they scored 23 in the first 3 quarters. It was a total collapse, total meltdown. Now, I've heard some stuff actually I know, but some of the players are sick, maybe food poisoning type stuff the night before. From what I heard, it's more on the offensive side of the ball anyway. I'm not trying to make any kind of excuse for them. I'm just saying there was a lot of players. Traylon Burks was one of the players I heard was sick. He had 200 receiving yards or something. So that's not what I mean. I'm just pointing that out. Unfortunate timing for Arkansas. So I still think that things with this program are headed in the right direction. I mean, I can see it with just the way they play and just the way they fight for their coach. That's why I think maybe this one stings a little bit more. And that's good because before it's very apathetic when Arkansas has lost. And this one actually stings because there was a lot on the line. You had an opportunity. I mean, let's talk about what all's on the line. This is why Missouri has the opportunity to gloat right now, and they should. They spoiled Barry Odom's return story. I mean, this was supposed to be, look what you fired, look what you missed out on, and you allow 653 yards. There's not a single, whether long-term you can look back on this and say, well, maybe that was a mistake. Who knows what's going to happen in the future. But right now, there's not a single Missouri fan going, oh, I regret that decision. Regret that we let Barry Odom go. And that's what makes it, sting a little bit more. It's like a multifold sting for that one. This is developing into a rivalry, no matter what people want to say. I kind of think of it a little bit as the the Ole Miss, Mississippi State rivalry, where Ole Miss fans are just kind of like, yeah, you're just more annoying than anything. We view LSU as our rival, and I think that's kind of how Arkansas fans view Missouri. So what way to change that is keep losing to them when you feel a sense of superiority. There's also been a lot of discussion on the Razor's Edge about, Arkansas. I get the feeling like Arkansas fans feel like they're missing out on something because they don't have a symbiotic rivalry game with somebody where they say Arkansas is their chief rival and Arkansas says they're the chief rival. But most schools don't have that. Like I just mentioned with Ole Miss, some people may disagree with that. Most of the Ole Miss people that I know that I talk to, they say that LSU is the team that they want to beat most. That's the rival. Mississippi State's just kind of like a annoyance, as I was saying. But who has that in the SEC? Auburn, Alabama, they have it, but who else? I mean, would you say Georgia, Florida, or would you say Florida, Florida State? Would they view that as their top rival? Georgia, Auburn. Auburn doesn't view Georgia as their top rival. They definitely dislike and hate them. It's a great rivalry. It's the oldest rivalry in the South. And there's a lot of great rivalries like that. I don't mean to say there's not great rivalries, and Arkansas has rivals. I'm just saying that you're our rival type of relationship. Who else has that? Tennessee would probably say Alabama, not Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt would say Tennessee. Who's LSU saying? I think they're probably saying Alabama right now too. Who's Texas A&M saying? Probably Texas. Texas would probably say OU. Arkansas might have said Texas in the past. I'm not sure who Arkansas is saying. Some people would say Auburn. Some people would say Ole Miss. Texas A&M, certainly. I mean, that's probably Arkansas's best opportunity to actually have a real rival that they could have set up for rivalry week, but they decided to try to manufacture an LSU rivalry and a Missouri rivalry with Arkansas. So that's all I'm saying. There's not a whole lot of those across college football. USC, UCLA, Ohio State, Michigan. I mean, there's some throughout football, but there's not. I just don't think there's a whole lot of them, you know. So I don't know. I just kind of get the feeling like Arkansas fan. That's always a discussion that we have, like who's Arkansas's chief rival. But this one definitely stings because this was a real opportunity. I mean, if you think about it, if they could have won this one, these were all games that were scheduled for them in the SEC. You know, they weren't scheduled to play Florida and Georgia, both teams that they lost to. They most likely would have beaten the 3 non-conference teams outside of Notre Dame. You know, I think they probably would be 6-6 right now. Yeah, I'm chalking up Alabama to a loss. I'm sorry. But they would probably be 6-6. But if they'd won that Missouri game, you know, 7-5, with a chance to win a bowl game, that's a miraculous turnaround. Like if Arkansas had played the non-conference games, everybody would say Sam Pittman was coach of the year. But they're not, so it's probably going to be Eli Drinkwitz or Nick Saban. I think Nick Saban has a great case for it. Hell, Dan Mullen has a heck of a case for it. Dan Mullen, Nick Saban, Drinkwitz, they all have a strong case for SEC Coach of the Year. I just don't think it's going to be Pittman now, even though the last 3 years they have tripled the number of wins in one season that Arkansas has had in the SEC. KJ Jefferson's got to give it. KJ was catching a lot of heat for just not coming in and just being, you know, just blowing the doors off of him on the first series. Like the amount of people want to go to the next guy. It's amazing how much people want to go. Like whoever Lucas Coley comes in next year, everybody's going to want to go to him. KJ shut him up pretty quickly though. Really solid showing for him, I thought. You know, he didn't. He still is erratic at times. Like every once in a while he'll throw one, and you're just like, whoa, you know, or throw one just like really nose down bullet on a short pass, or throw one 7 yards out of bounds. But I really think a lot of that is still stemming from him having to correct his throwing motion. We've talked about it. You know, he came here with a hitch in his throwing motion. He's worked it out, but I think he's added a lot of velocity, you know, by fixing his throwing motion. But I think it's a lot better than it was last year, because I've noticed it a lot in practice where he just sail one way over a guy. And he didn't do that very often Saturday, but he did it a couple times. I think he's just getting better and better. The thing with KJ, and the reason that KJ was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, wasn't because he just came in ready to go. It was because people saw a high level of upside with him. He's a big kid, strong, very good straight-ahead runner too. He's not a guy that's going to juke you a lot, but he can move a pile, as we saw. He runs faster than you think. He's a strider, and he's got a really good arm. Really good size. He's got a lot of upside. He's not one of these quarterback camp guys that grew up with a guy, you know, attached to his hip that was instructing him all along the way. You know, he came in raw with an upside. It's going to be an interesting quarterback battle in the future. But I think as a Razorback fan, you probably have to feel a little bit better about the position. 10 catches for 206 yards and a touchdown, 3 rushes for 14 yards for Treylon Burks. Thank you. I mean, Arkansas did what they had to do on offense. And they're still, you know, limited a little bit. I mean, if you think about it, and by the way, congrats to Myron Cunningham, was voted team captain. His parents were there to watch him play for the first time in a college game on Saturday. But when you think about it, Arkansas has been without their first 2 guys at right tackle and right guard, and also lost Dalton Wagner for a little bit Saturday. Their preseason All-ACC running back's gone. And Rakeem Boyd. They didn't have Felipe Franks, and they probably had their best day on offense. They did. They had their best day on offense. They still scored 15 points in the fourth quarter. You score 15 points in the fourth quarter, you're like, yeah. You know, I mean, if I told you like going in that you're going to have a 2-score lead going into the fourth, and you're also going to score 15 points, what would you tell me the outcome's going to be? So the offense did what they needed to do. They do need to start stronger coming out of the half and with the game. I can certainly understand why they came out of the game slow. that being KJ's first start of the season. But Traylon Smith had 172 yards, 26 carries, 3 touchdowns. First time since 2016 by Raleigh Williams. That's been done. Special teams still stink. You miss 2 extra points. You lose by 2 points, you miss 2 extra points. I mean, I don't have to say much more than that. But special teams have just been, and 1 kick block. What have you had? I mean, like, you've had 2 punts blocked. You've had a field goal blocked. You've had 2 extra points, 4 extra points total missed. You've had an extra point block, but 4 missed total. Reed Bauer did well, 41.4 yards per punt on 5 attempts. But that's kind of what you're supposed to do. It's not like you get a special trophy for doing everything you're supposed to do. And he did. But maybe that's why it doesn't get mentioned a lot. Doing what you're supposed to do. Nothing like dramatically exceptional. They had the 20-yard run by Jack Lindsey. That was definitely a redeeming feeling, obviously. Nathan Perotti had a 7-yard kickoff return to the 11-yard line. That was definitely not pretty. So special teams still are an issue. They've been an issue for most games. And, like, think about it like this, too. Like, we can talk about all these little issues, but, like, games that Arkansas has lost that they very easily could have won. This Missouri game, they lost by a field goal. They lost by 2 points, but they lost on a field goal. The LSU game, you remember how that one lost? It was lost a 44-yard field goal attempt by Arkansas, blocked. Again, decided by a kicker. The Auburn game, definitely the referees played a hand in that by, not ruling it a fumble and then not ruling it an immediate recovery. But the game was ultimately lost on a kick, a field goal. Arkansas has lost 3 games by a total of 7 points this year. I mean, I don't mean to say not bad, but I mean, like, obviously you'd like to win those, but that's a lot different than it was in the past. I mean, I think back to 2018 when Arkansas went up there and it was cold and it was rainy and Arkansas just didn't want to be there. It was Chad Morris's last game of his first year, the last time he coached there, and Arkansas lost 38-0. Just a terrible effort. They didn't want to be there. It looked like they didn't want to be there. Yep, it just fell apart in the fourth quarter. That's the bottom line. But the offense, I mean, also consider, like, going into this game, Missouri had the 3rd-ranked defense in the SEC, giving up 350 yards a game. Arkansas and Alabama turning the page. Number 1 ranked Crimson Tide. Arkansas has not beaten these guys since 2007. I think that game was overturned. Is that one overturned? Anyway, they should have won that one. That's the one where Darren McFadden had to come out. But that's the last time Arkansas has beaten Alabama was 2006, I guess. They've never beaten them under Nick Saban. Alabama's 9-0. This one's 11 o'clock on ESPN in Fayetteville, the last game in Fayetteville. It's senior day. Every senior will participate in senior day who's playing. Some of them just might have another senior day. They might do it again next year. It depends on who decides to come back. And they haven't really talked about that a whole lot. Just, briefly brushed on it here and there. Hey, you might be nice to have come back next year. Mac Jones, Najee Harris, Devontae Smith, and a whole lot of really, really highly recruited guys. Now, as I mentioned, Felipe Franks may or may not play. They'll know a little bit more about him today. They haven't seen him. Grant Morgan won't practice today. They may have him back. But regardless, I think we're going to see KJ no matter what. I mean, this is what Pittman said. Felipe has earned the right to start. KJ's earned the right to play. Pittman actually, the first time he faced Alabama was 2003 when he was at Northern Illinois. You remember that game? 2003, Northern Illinois, 1916, NIU won. They also beat Maryland, Iowa State that year, so they had a pretty good team. But Pittman has beaten them, back when they were not supposed to win and not really expected to have a chance. But Pittman, basically just said they out-physicaled them. against Missouri, and I mean that's going to happen against Alabama. That's the thing with Alabama. That's the way Alabama beats you is like you think you're playing well, you think you're hanging in there, and then suddenly you're down by 4 scores. And how does it happen? It's just they just lean on you. They just leaning on you the whole time, and the fourth quarter is when the best team shines, and that's where Alabama shines, and they make you pay. We talk about that all season long, how important it is, and Arkansas has done a great job at that, how important it is for Arkansas to capitalize on mistakes the opponent makes. Alabama has been the kings of that. They're the kings of the slow death, like I've just mentioned. They just lean on you think you're there, and then suddenly you're down by 4 scores. They're the kings of the slow death, and they're the kings of making you pay. Every time you make a mistake, Alabama's like in the end zone with an interception or a scoop and score, stuff like that. They are going to make you pay. Well, if you're going to get a real measuring stick of where you are as a program since last year, you might as well go play the number 1 team in the country, Sam Pittman. They're excited about playing Alabama. They want to see where they stand. Okay, where are we at? So just to look at Alabama, scoring offense, number 1 in the SEC, 49.2 points per game. Rushing offense, 4th in the SEC, 187.2 yards a game. Passing offense, 2 in the SEC, 361.1 yards a game. Total offense, 548.3 yards per game, only behind Mississippi, 2nd in the SEC. Mac Jones, Heisman candidate, is 193 of 255 passing, which is 75.7%. 75.7% leads the SEC. 3,113 yards, 27 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's got a 210 passer rating. Wow. 345.9 yards per game. Najee Harris is leading the SEC in rushing at 115.3 yards per game. He's got 169 carries for 1,038 yards, 6.14 yards per carry, 20 touchdowns. And then Devontae Smith, wide receiver, 80 receptions, 1,305 yards, which leads the SEC. 16.3 yards per catch, 15 touchdown receptions, 145 yards per game. They got some studs, obviously. Everybody, I mean, it's just like, new numbers, new faces, same results. Brandon Allen was injured against Dolphins. So Brandon Allen's been starting for Cincinnati since Joe Burrow got knocked out, tore his ACL. But he had some kind of chest injury and had to come out. Hopefully he's okay. Brandon Allen is stuck in the NFL. He was a 2016 draft pick, right? So this is his 5th year in the NFL. He has a few starts under his belt. I mean, who would have thought some people would have thought that. I mean, Bobby Petrino thought that Brandon Allen was going to be the best quarterback of the bunch, but, with Ryan Mallett, Tyler Wilson, Brandon Allen, I think most people thought, it would be in order Ryan Mallett, Tyler Wilson, Brandon Allen in terms of who would have most success on the next level. But really, I mean, it's probably been Allen. I mean, he's definitely stuck the longest. Mallett may have more start. Mallett may have a couple more starts here and there or something through his career. But I think Brandon has either matched him in longevity or passed him. Bowl projections right now. So Arkansas's back in the Music City now. Last time they had him in the Outback facing, I think, Indiana. Now they've got him back in the Music City Bowl facing Iowa. The last time those teams played was 1925, so 95 years ago was the last time Arkansas played Iowa. That would be fun. And I think a lot of people kind of consider those two programs similar in a lot of ways, not in terms of like success, because Iowa's had more success recently than Arkansas has, but maybe a lot of ways they're kind of similar. Switching over to Razorback basketball, Arkansas went in 86-50 against Lipscomb. I think that Arkansas's got a really good team. Now, I think they're still experimenting, still figuring some things out. I want to mention this. I forgot to. I wanted to mention this at the beginning, but we have a new show. It's called Hog Hoops Live. It's hosted by Curtis Wilkerson. Some of you guys may have caught the first episode. We had a couple of technical difficulties. The microphone wasn't, for some reason, registering, and it was computer audio, and there's no way to know that till the end. But a couple of technical things, but the content was fantastic. Curtis does a great job covering Razorback basketball. His knowledge of everything, really shines through. So that's going to come up on this Facebook page. It'll come up on a different YouTube channel. I'll link it right up here. So it'll be on a different YouTube channel, but it'll be on the same podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that stuff. All that stuff will come through the same. Facebook, it'll come through the same. It'll just say Hog Hoops Live. On the podcast, we'll put HHL for a little bit while people still get used to it. But I think it's going to be a great addition to the show. I'll continue to talk some basketball, mainly football, but I'll continue to talk some basketball, and we're going to let Curtis Wilkerson take it away with Razorback Hoops. I think you guys are really going to enjoy the show. Hog Hoops Live, HAWG Hoops Live, the sister show to HawgSports Live. So Arkansas winning 86-50. Who's the best player for Arkansas? Is it Jalen Tate? Is it Moses Moody? I think it might be Connor Vanover. It may be Moody eventually, but right now I think it's Vanover. What did he do in the game? He barely, he doesn't play a whole lot. So Vanover played 15 minutes. He had 6 points. He still had 9 rebounds and 4 block shots and a steal and an assist. No turnovers. 15 minutes, 6 points, 9 rebounds, 4 block shots, 1 assist, 1 steal. He really changed his life. He got a little cold from 3. He knocked down his first 2 3-pointers, and then, it wasn't like he missed them bad. I think they were all kind of hard off the back iron, which I kind of think of him. He's a guy with he's got like a 9.5 foot standing reach. So I think of him like if he jumps just a little bit, he's almost like shooting down at the basket. By the way, I had this thought with some friends of mine. This is just really off topic. I like to play basketball. I'm Curtis's basketball expert, but I love playing basketball. I actually coach my girls' second grade team. It's one of my favorite things. But there's a discussion that I had. I always feel like the best way to shoot a basketball is with your index finger. And I used to shoot it like that with the 2. And then I started doing that, and I noticed when it does roll off this finger perfectly, it's going in. Anyway, there's, some people shoot with this finger, some people shoot with this finger, and some people shoot with these 2 fingers. What do you guys think is the best? Leave it in your comments below what best way you think is to shoot the basketball. I just feel like, I don't know what it is about that. That just feels right to me. Maybe it's just a personal choice, I think. I think Steph Curry may be a middle finger guy. I think Jordan was a 2-finger guy. I'm not sure what Larry Bird was or anything. I think Dirk Nowitzki, I've just seen him on the throw down, you want that finger down, and I think Dirk does it like that. But I think Arkansas has a chance to be really good. I think most Arkansas fans see that. I think that maybe through limited exposure that we've had with COVID and all that stuff, with so many new faces on the team, that it's maybe a lot of national people aren't quite catching on yet. But you don't just come out and score the second most points in program history. That doesn't just happen. I think it's a really good sign of what they're capable of. I think we've seen a lot of experimenting. We've seen, they haven't been perfect. I think they're still finding their way. There's some, Note, maybe shoots a little bit too much at times, but I think he's more athletic than I even thought he was going to be. I think he's going to be a guy that's really going to bring it once he settles in. I think Vanover's just a huge difference maker, a guy that nobody is really going to have a strong answer for. And Curtis talks about, them dragging him out on ball screens and stuff like that. They're trying to figure out I just think you got to have him out there and just kind of deal with it. I think he can make up for a lot of stuff. Like we mentioned 4 block shots. How many did he alter? He's a big addition. These guys can shoot. Justin Smith can soar. He had 6 rebounds. He's going to 9.6 rebounds in 18 minutes, for Justin Smith, a block shot. He's a guy that I think is kind of going to – he doesn't look like a guy that says a whole lot, but he's a guy that I think quietly is going to do really well. He can shoot. He may not be like the premier shooter on the team, but he can shoot. Desi can shoot. He didn't have a great game, but Desi brings that strong energy. I mean, he's a smaller guy, 4 rebounds still in 13 minutes, 6 points. Moody can shoot. Moody can pretty much do it all. Really strong free throw shooter. 8 rebounds in addition to 18 points in 24 minutes. I think he definitely had the best game overall Saturday and played a little bit more. But, Moody can shoot. Jalen Tate's shown he can shoot. Looks to be pretty solid as a free throw shooter. Defender, we know he's solid. Long, 6'6" guy. I mean, I love that you're short and you're still tall. Like, let's go with our short lineup and you're still tall. Vanover, we know, can shoot. We know Note can shoot. Vance Jackson can shoot. He was 2 of 7 from 3, but he can shoot, and he's tall and long, 6'9". KK can shoot. Devo can shoot. I mean, we've seen who I'm forgetting. Jalen Williams. We've seen him. He can shoot. He can shoot threes. I mean, like everybody can shoot. You've got guys that can play above the rim. Got guys that can rebound. I mean, they're killing teams on the board. When have you said that about an Arkansas team? It's going to be real interesting to see what happens when SEC play starts. Obviously, the Tulsa game's canceled. We'll find out what happens with maybe another team. Maybe I've heard SMU, ULR. We know that they've at least been in contact. Darrell Walker said he's going to text us. Who knows what will happen. But Wednesday right now, there's no game Wednesday. I'd love to see that change. Razorback basketball is going to be fun. That's what another thing that just kind of stinks about this virus is you can't have but a few thousand people in Bud Walton Arena. What is it, like 4,000, I think, max? Can't have a lot of people in there. The environment's not going to be the same. The energy's not going to be the same. But man, think about how wild it could be this season. They've got a really good team. Like last year was my favorite. Last year was my favorite Razorback team to cover. I'd give it the edge over 13-14, Portis, Qualls. Even though, just the personalities on the team and the fact that it was just kind of not like Bad News Bears, but kind of like they're going to be short, they're going to be shorter than everybody. We don't know who the go-to guys, and you watch the evolution of Mason Jones, just all the stuff that they had to overcome. Big shots at the end of games. It was a fun team to cover, fun team to watch. Even though they weren't Arkansas's most talented team ever, but they exceeded expectation, and I think there's always going to be a level of appreciation for this. This team right here maybe has a chance to be that for different reasons. We're not going to get the insight into the personalities. It's a lot different interviewing somebody versus doing it on a Zoom call, right? So we're not going to get that same level of intimacy that we had, with a guy like, with Mason or, Isaiah or Desi or some of those guys. Adrio, we're not going to get that same feeling, but there's plenty of room for it to make up in other areas because they have a chance to be really, really solid. Anyway, Hawg Hoops Live will show weekly. I'm thinking we'll either do the show after the midweek game, the following day. So maybe one day it'll be Wednesday, maybe one day it'll be Thursday. Either that or we're just thinking about keeping it on Thursday. If you got a suggestion on that, let me know below. After football season, probably do this more like 1 week, probably HawgSports Live probably on Mondays after football season, maybe with a special show here and there. And then we'll have Curtis's show at least weekly. But let me know what you think on when it should be. It's a similar setup. Obviously he's going to bring his own personality and everything, but we even got him the same mic. So it'll be a similar setup. All right, let's hop over, see if we got any questions here. I'm going to go to the bottom first. Desi is still going to have a huge impact, just hasn't broken out yet. Yeah, Desi bring the energy that he brings and leadership. You can't really measure that, David. David also says, what record do you think the football team should have next year to show that we are moving in the right direction? It's a good question. Let's see what the football schedule is next year. That'll be fun. Rice, W. Texas will be interesting. Will Tom Herman be there? Will he not? It's in Fayetteville. This is just for fun. Give them a win. Why not? Georgia Southern. Oh, let's just hold it. We'll hold it over here. So Rice, Georgia Southern, UAB. Is that everybody for the non-conference? Yeah. Okay, so those three, I think you got 3 non-conference wins there. And then you got Texas as a possibility. Okay, so then you've got Texas A&M, Missouri. Let's talk about the winnable ones. Texas A&M will be breaking in a new quarterback. That'll be notable. So will Arkansas, although KJ's played a little bit. I guess Kellen Mond could come back. I mean, that's a big part of it too, like who comes back and who doesn't. Right? You get Mississippi State and Fayetteville. You get Missouri and Little Rock. Who else is in Fayetteville? Auburn's in Fayetteville. That could be an interesting one. Yeah, you just get the 3 home games because you play Texas A&M, but you get Texas at home. So, I mean, getting 3 wins again in your 3 non-conference, I mean, that's 6. I guess you wouldn't say that's like a huge step forward or anything if you just said 6. So I guess they would have to win 4 to say it's like this big step forward, maybe, or a decent continuing step forward. It's hard to say. I mean, you don't know who's coming back next year. Let's see who comes back for Arkansas and the opponents. What do you think it is that makes special teams struggle? I noticed on the block PAT, our line didn't even stand up to blocks, says Tyler Tober. I don't know, but they have been awful all year. It is the inconsistency. I think it's possibly moving guys in and out. That's kind of what they've suggested. It could just be that AJ's, just not kicking it that well. I didn't notice anything with the snap or the hold, really. Another question of why they gave us Georgia this year, knowing we play them next year, because they don't care. They don't care about what Arkansas has. Is Clark the best option we have at cornerback? Gets beat too often, I think. He has struggled. There's no question he gets beat more than like Monteric does, even on plays where they don't complete. But I guess he's the best option there. I mean, let's not forget what Hudson Clark did for Arkansas in the Ole Miss game. I mean, I'm not sure that they win that game without Hudson Clark, right? So now moving forward, is he a starting cornerback at Arkansas? I don't know, but I think that they've, obviously been hit pretty good with, they had Jerry Jacobs opted out, Jarquez McClellan opted out. Those are 2 guys that are 1-2 at cornerback for you. Devin Bush has had a shoulder issue, so, they've had some injury issues there too. But Pittman says he feels strong about cornerback for the future. I think Clark might be a guy you look at maybe at safety in the future, maybe as the hybrid outside linebacker safety guy that Greg Brooks plays. I think Muss should utilize 2 platoons, maybe. I mean, I think he's going to experiment a lot, but ultimately, when it all comes down to it, he's going to go with 8 guys. Even when KK doesn't make it, his shot looks like it's going in every time. He has a pretty shot. Threw the ball well, took a minute. That second drive, they went 3 and out, and that second drive that they had, he ran the ball for 30-something yards, I guess. He had 7 carries, it seemed like. He had a lot of carries that first drive, and it's like that may be what it took, to get him going. Sometimes they said that with quarterbacks, you almost need that first shot. Take that first hit or get a good run or something to get your juices flowing a little bit. Les Reisner says, can you imagine Connor in a couple years with another 30 pounds on that frame? Yeah. Can you imagine like how much he has to eat? We had to talk about this on the Razor's Edge forum. It's like playing basketball and all the, calories you burn doing that, practicing that every day, playing the game, plus being younger, and obviously probably having high metabolism. Like how much food you have to eat. Like somebody was saying they had to get up in the middle of the night. Somebody else on our board who's 7 foot tall said they had to get up in the middle of the night and eat a bunch of stuff. But I imagine you got to put away some calories to add any weight. Especially, being that size, first of all, the amount of calories that you need. I mean, girls beat Baylor. Absolutely, NP Rich. Congratulations, the lady, right? What are you're not lady backs anymore, just the women's Razorback women, I guess. Isn't that what you call them? Number 4 Baylor. That's a huge win for that program. Congratulations. Hope Muss finds a replacement game for Wednesday or Thursday this week. Absolutely, that would be nice. I guess we find out pretty quick, probably by today, if anything's gonna happen. Les Reisner says, I took some heat over the Mizzou loss. 2 nephews played golf there. My brother lives in Missouri. I'm just hoping my heart heals by Christmas. Is Clark the best option at cornerback? I'd have read that one, I guess. Isaac Riley says, appreciate the content, everyone. It's hard at the Razorbacks here at HawgSports. Thank you, Isaac. Do we have any extra love for bowl selection based on what should be an asterisk or 2? That's a good point. I don't know if there will be any love or not, but, if they can make the Music City Bowl this year, I think that would be pretty solid. Scott Varner says, what happened to Bush? Bush has shoulder issue. Drew McDonald says, what are the chances we get a new special teams coach next year? Like I said, I'm willing to give – I'm disappointed as anybody in the way special teams have played. They've cost them. They have cost them this year. Scott Fountain has a great reputation as a special teams coach, though. So I'm willing to, let's see what happens next year kind of deal. And he's also a hell of a recruiter. He is a really strong recruiter, people. In the top 10 national recruiter of the year. So let's not let that just go to the wayside. But there's nobody that's pleased with special teams. And I would assume Scott Fountain probably leads that pack. Billy D. Wilkerson says defense needs serious help. It's unfortunate that special teams would continue to be bad. Defense would play their worst game of the season. And maybe you say it's against Florida. I think it was this one. Florida has a lot more manpower. But defense plays their worst game of the season, and Arkansas's offense plays their best game. But they need some help on defense. They got to continue to recruit depth, got to continue to get bigger. I think they got gassed a little bit at the end. Jason Brown says, so proud of these Hogs. This is the same talent we had last year. Absolutely. Don't let that be forgotten. Again, don't let it be forgotten that when we talked about this season, that 4 games was the ceiling. Okay, and they almost got it and almost got 6. At the same time, they could only have 1 game, 1 win this season. They only really beat Ole Miss convincingly. Nice to have KJ when it comes to those 4th and shorts, yes. It's nice to see a quarterback under center. I prefer that. I think it's also, this game shows a lot of ways how important that first down is, how different the offense is. I still like to watch football played slower, teams huddle, defense huddle, offense huddle. This is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to do. We're going to do some more complicated stuff versus hurry up. I'm just not as big a fan of that. I think there are other things that we see as a negative byproduct of that. First of all, there are times where the camera can't even keep up. There was a time where 2 times in the game Saturday where you didn't see the beginning of the play because they hadn't caught up to it because Arkansas had gone so fast. So there's that negative aspect of it. One, you don't get a chance to see replays, and if they show a replay on TV, it's like they'll show a split screen a lot of times. So you got your new 70-inch television, and we're going to show a replay right here. Got an alarm going off. We're going to show a replay right here, and then over here we're going to show the upcoming play. So you basically get half your TV. Fake injuries. That was a big thing. And let's make no mistake here. I believe that there were fakes, okay? And I hate having to say that about players who may or may not be injured. I don't like when a player goes down because of an injury and the fans start booing. because he's maybe faked an injury because Arkansas is trying to hurry up and go. So much of the offense is predicated on getting that first down, hurrying up, running the next play, and you've got guys injured. Maybe. Who knows? It certainly seems like it's not that bad an injury. They come back. They come right back into the game. So, even Pittman said he doesn't think that's within the integrity of the game, the way that was done. And we've seen it all the time. I mean, we saw the first time I can really remember it, like against Arkansas, like when Arkansas was playing Auburn and the Auburn player just went down, because they were confused on defense or something. So to me, that's another negative byproduct of, the rules benefiting a hurry-up type of offense. Players get injured, people boo, or players faking injuries. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't be like, you're faking an injury, here's a penalty flag. You can't do that. You don't know. You're not a doctor. Definitely get the depth up. All right, everybody. How long are we going? We've done it. Okay, I want to thank everybody for their questions. Appreciate everybody joining us. And, it's Alabama week. Be sure to look out for Hog Hoops Live. That'll be coming Wednesday or Thursday, I guess. We'll see what happens with the basketball game midweek, but we will be running Hog Hoops Live one day, probably Wednesday this week. Anyway, appreciate everybody for joining me. We'll see you guys on Thursday, I guess. It's been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.